All right, shalom, shalom. This is Brother Raphael, back at it again, doing the work of the Lord on byways this time. We saw a couple of Jakes walk through last week, so we're just gonna get right into it. I have nothing planned whatsoever, and we're just gonna go in on the Holy Scriptures, right? So with that, let us face the east. All right. Give all praise and all honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kakadash. That is the name of the Heavenly Father in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, all right, which is the language of the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Americans, all right. We are one family, and our nation are the Israelites, according to antiquity, okay. The God of the Bible, his name is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushai, okay, who was the first begotten, who was the first created out of all life forms that exist, all right? He was the very first entity or the very first spirit created by the Father, okay? As a matter of fact, we might touch on that in a second. I want to give heavy salutations, a salute to the apostles of Great Millstone, all right? Shalom. Shalom to you other brothers out there, rightly dividing the word of truth, okay? And I want to say shalom to you sisters, mothers that might catch this video. All right, so let's get into it. Let's go over here to the book of John, chapter 1. In verse 1, he says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God." So the thing is that people, they don't understand that the Father, Yahweh, he has no beginning. He's always existed. All right. There was never a time when he existed, right? As a matter of fact, let's get that account. Let me pull this up. Let's go to Psalms 90 and 2. It says, the book of Psalms, chapter 90, verse 2. "Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hadst formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God." You see, everlasting to everlasting. Before the earth was formed, and before the world was made, the Father has always existed. Okay. So now, let's go over here to the book of Genesis, chapter 1. Book of Genesis, chapter 1, and verse 1. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." Now, what I want to do is, I want to look at that word in the Hebrew for God. Because God, when you read the word God in the scriptures, sometimes it's not necessarily just talking about Yahweh. Sometimes God is plural. It's collective. I'm looking at the Strongs. You know what's so crazy is that God is mentioned 4,444 times in the whole entire Bible. Ain't that something? See, that letter 4, it's a very spiritual number for us who desire to be a part of the elect. So that word is Elohim, right? So it says Elohim or Elohim, right? It says the ordinary sense, but specifically used in the plural. thus especially with the article of the supreme God, occasionally applied by way of deference of magistrates. So you can have different rulers, right? Elohim, Elohim, and sometimes as a superlative. So sometimes God is referenced as angels. It says gods or goddess, great judges, mighty. Okay, you'll find this word utilized in the same passage, Genesis chapter. I think it might be chapter 2. No, same passage. Verse 26. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth." All right, over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So it says that in the book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." So it was at that moment in time that the Father, the beginning is stated as when heaven is created. But what about before heaven was created? All right. Who existed? Yahweh existed, right? So when he created the heaven, that's when he created all the spirits, and the elect, the 144,000. We helped create all of reality, heaven and earth. Okay. It says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness." So when we go back to John chapter 1 and verse 1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God." Okay? And the Word was God. It says, "The same was in the beginning with God." So here we see that these are two different distinct beings here, two different spirits, because it says that he was with God, right? Denoting that there's more than one, there's more than two people. They're not the same being, right? It says, verse 3, "All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." So I'm going to go over here, Revelations 3 and 14. It says, "And the angel of the church of Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God." So boom, right there, he's letting you know that he was a creation. All right. That he was a witness and that he was created. And he was created in the very image of his Father. Right? You think of Yahushua as Junior, you know? That's why he told, I believe it was Andrew, he said, "When you have seen me, you have seen the Father." All right? And it says that he was that great light. He says, "And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." So that great light, when you go back to Genesis chapter 1, and you look at when God created the heavens and the earth, and it says in verse 3, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. That light was the word of the Lord. He spoke it into existence. That light was Yahushua. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. and the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So then, when you jump down to verse 14, it says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So we see that there's many lights. Many lights were created, but there's only one true light, and that was Yahushua. Let's go back to John, chapter 1, and verse 3. It says, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Let's go to Colossians. Let's go to Colossians 1 and 16. It says, let's start at verse 15. It says, actually, let's look at verse 13. Who hath delivered us from the power of darkness and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. So again, he's letting you know that Yahushua was created. He was the firstborn of every creature. He was the image of the invisible God. Now, is the Father really invisible? No. He's invisible because this is what it says. Let's go over here. I want to say Exodus. Damn, where is it? Okay, the book of Exodus, chapter 33, and verse 9. And it came to pass, as Moses entered into the tabernacle, the cloudy pillar descended and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and Yahweh talked with Moses. Now, how did the Father talk to Moses? Right? How did let me rephrase like this. How did we speak with the Most High? We spoke through to the Most High, typically through the prophets, or we would hear the word of the Lord sent by an angel. All right, because when Yahweh speaks, it sounds like thunder. All right, it sounds like thunder. As a matter of fact, let me pull that out real quick. It says right here in the book of John, chapter 12, and verse 28. Father, glorify thy name. Yahushua speaking. Then came there a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glory it again. The people, therefore, that stood by and heard it said that it thundered, and others said, an angel spake to him. Yahushua answered and said, this voice came not because of me, but for your sakes. Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. And I, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me, right? Signifying that he would die. Okay. So sometimes when the Father spake, people couldn't understand what he was saying. It just sounded like a large a thunderstorm, right? It sounded like thunder. So that's why if you got a spiritual eye, man, um, when you hear the thunder rolling, sometimes that might be Yahweh, right? Or it might be one of the angels, speaking, and we just can't perceive what the Father is saying. So the point is that when we go back to Exodus 32 and 9, right, and it talks about that cloudy pillar, and it says, and the Lord talked to Moses, the Lord relayed all his message through his angel, Yahweh Shai. Okay? Let me show you that. Let's go, we're going to stay in Exodus. Exodus chapter 23 and verse 20. Behold, I sent an angel before thee. Notice how the angel's capitalized. Behold, I sent an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions. For my name is in him. That is Yahweh Shai. Because what was Yahweh Shai before he took on a human form? What was he? He was a spirit. All right? He was a spirit. He was an angel. Okay? That's who he was before he took on flesh. He says, but if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak. So the key thing is that everything that the angel who was Yahweh Shai, everything that he said was the same thing that the Father told him. Okay? That's why when you go over here to the New Testament, let's go over here to the book of Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7 and Acts chapter 7 and verse 30. It says, and when 40 years were expired, there appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai an angel of the Lord in a flame of fire in a bush. When Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight. And as he drew near to behold it, the voice of Yahweh came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy fathers. So you have to imagine the angel is speaking, and the angel is saying, I am the God of your fathers. So the angel was merely a conduit. Yahweh Shai was merely a conduit. Okay? It says, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled and durst not behold. Okay? He says, let's jump to verse 48. It says, howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as saith the prophet. Heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. What house will ye build me, saith the Lord? Or what is the place of my rest? Hath not my hand made all these things? Ye stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears. Ye do always resist the Holy Ghost. As your fathers did, so do ye. Which of the prophets have not your fathers persecuted? And they have slain them which showed before the coming of the just one, of whom ye have been now the betrayers and murderers, who have received the law by the dispensation of angels. So when Moses received the tablets that were signed by the fingers of Yahweh, okay, it was delivered to Moses by the hand of his servant, right? The first begotten, right, of all creation, his angel. It was Yahweh Shai that took the tablets from Yahweh and came down to Moses and handed it to Moses. So it's ironic that people say, oh, Jesus is nowhere in the Torah. You just don't have eyes to see him. Okay? The Father has to give you the eyes to see him in the Torah. Who have received the law by the dispensation of angels and have not kept it. And then when we jump to verse 55, it says, but he, being full of the Holy Ghost, looked up steadfastly into heaven and saw the glory of God and Yahushua standing on the right hand of God. So you got two different beings, two different spirits. You don't see one spirit. Okay? Two distinct spirits, and that proves that the Trinity is false. Okay? Let me bring this out before we go back to Exodus. It says right here in the book of John, chapter 12, and verse 47. And if any man hear my words and believe not, I judge him not, for I came not to judge the world, but to save the world. Now, what world? He did not come to save the Edomites. All right? The scriptures clearly tell you in Isaiah 63 that he's coming to destroy Edom. Okay? So that world, that government, that cosmos is the government, the nation of Israel. It says, he that rejecteth me and receiveth not my words hath one that judgeth him. It says, the word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. For I have not spoken of myself, but the Father which sent me, he gave me a commandment what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his commandment, so that lets you know, man, Yahushua, he's not the Father, bro, because he's in obedience. Those commandments, he didn't think of it himself. But whatever the Father told him to say, that's what he said, all right? Verse 50, and I know that his commandment is life everlasting. Whatsoever I speak, therefore, even as the Father said unto me, so I speak. Ecclesiastes. Let's go over here to the book of Ecclesiastes. Chapter 1 and verse 9. It says, or actually 1 and verse 5. Well, actually, no, let's start at verse 4. It says right here, one generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. Now, that word forever just means a very long time, right? So, what we're letting the people know, and what I want to let you guys know, is that the same one that was in the beginning, he's coming at the end, all right? And everything that he was commanded to speak, everything that he was commanded to do from the foundation of the world before the world began, that is what he's coming to fulfill, okay? Let me bring that up real quick before we go back to Ecclesiastes. It says right here in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10 and verse 7. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me to do thy will, O God. Okay. Then said he, lo, I come to do thy will, O God. He taketh away the first, that he may establish the second. Okay. Going back to Ecclesiastes, chapter 1. So it says, one generation passeth away. And that's what we're letting you guys know, is that these generations, there's certain generations, there's one generation that's going to pass away forever. All right? It's going to be the same ones who bruised Yahushua. It's going to be the same ones who crucified him. All right? That generation. And those brothers that were there was the same generation that was in the wilderness, okay, with Moses. So one generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. So that lets you know, man, the scriptures clearly let you know that the earth does not move. The earth is stationary. Everything else is moving around us. That's why people in the ancient days, they worshiped the sun and the moon and the stars, because they understood that the earth did not move. So if the sun and the constellations are moving, then that means that they have life in them, that they are alive. And indeed they are. Okay. Verse 6, the wind goeth toward the south and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full unto the place from whence the rivers come. Thither they return again. All things are full of labor, men cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So the same way how Yahweh Shai came, right, through the seed of David, okay, to do everything that was commanded of him by Yahweh, that was nothing new. He did that in the ancient days. All right. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 33 and verse 9. And it came to pass, as Moses entered into the tabernacle, the cloudy pillar descended and stood at the door of the tabernacle. And Yahweh talked with Moses. And all the people saw the cloudy pillar stand at the tabernacle door. And all the people rose up and worshiped, every man in his tent door. And Yahweh spake unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend. So that's what he means by face to face. What he means by face to face is that he spoke to him as a friend. Let's get that. Numbers chapter 12 and verse 6. It says that he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Yahweh, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of Yahweh shall he behold. So he saw the similitude of Yahweh. All right. He didn't necessarily see the Father face to face. Face to face just means he spoke to him like a friend. He spoke to him even apparently. You see how I'm talking to you guys right now? Right? That's how the Father spoke to Moses. Now, how the Father speaks to us, he speaks to us through mysteries. He won't even speak to us anymore. The only way how he speaks to us through his word. Sometimes we might get dreams, but the majority of the time, if we have questions, you know, the Father will cause us to read something in his word and give us understanding. Or something might happen in life. You know, you might bump into somebody, you might be asking the Lord, man, you know, where should I hold camp? Where should I hold camp today, Father? I ask that your Holy Spirit guide me through the name of your son, Yahweh Shai. You know, and he just leads you through a city, you know, and then you might see a couple jakes hanging around, and you hold up camp right there, you know, and you just know that that's where the Father wants you to be. But with Moses, it was different. All right, so that's what it means to be, that he spoke to him face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend. Exodus 33 and verse 11. And he turned again into the camp, but his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, departed not out of the tabernacle. So now, it says, verse 17. And Yahweh said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found grace in my sight, and I know thee by name. And he said, I beseech thee, show me thy glory. Now, what does it mean that I know thee by name? I know thee by name, meaning that Yahweh Shai says that him that is ashamed of me, I shall also be ashamed of him. um, before my Father and all the angels, right? He ain't gonna know your name. When he gave the parable of the rich man, they began to knock at his door, saying, "Let us in, let us in." And Yahweh Shai looks at them. He's like, "Man, I don't know who you guys are. I don't know you. Essentially, I don't know your name." Right? They were blotted out of the book. It says, verse 18. It says, and he said, "I beseech thee, show me thy glory." So Moses wanted to see the Father. And he said, "I will make all my goodness pass before thee, and I will proclaim the name of Yahweh before thee, and will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy." And he said, "Thou canst see my face." So that's how we understand that when the Father said, "I speak," spoke to the Lord face to face. He spoke to the Lord face to face through his angel, which was Yahweh Shai, and he spoke to him even apparently. Okay, but Yahweh, all right, he says, "Thou canst see my face, for there shall no man see me and live." All right, and Yahweh said, "Behold, there is a place by me, and thou shalt stand upon a rock, and it shall come to pass, while my glory passeth by, that I will put thee in a cliff of the rock, and will cover thee with mine hand, while I pass by. And I will take away mine hand, and thou shalt see my back parts, but my face shall not be seen." Okay? That's why even when that's why even when Daniel, he had the vision of Yahweh, he didn't see his face, man. He saw, because his face was shining, too bright, like Moses. Okay? What he saw was his afro. Now, let's go back over here. So, Yahweh Shai is that light, man. And he says that he's coming in the volume of the book. So what I want to do is I want to read some prophecy here. Let's go over here to the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, and verse 1. "Behold, the day of Yahweh cometh, and thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee." So the day of Yahweh, that's the day when he sends his son to render vengeance on the earth. You're not going to see Yahweh himself, all right? But you're going to see his son with the whole fleet of angels, all right? It says, "For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall be cut off from the city." Okay. Let me see. Let's go to Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8. "Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." And what is this indignation? Yes, they're gonna because they're gonna be fighting one another. Okay, so that's the death, that's the sword, that's the famine, right? But ultimately, his true indignation is his son, Yahweh Shai. You're gonna see that Yahweh is pissed off by looking at his messenger, by looking at his son, by looking at the Messiah, at his face and his rage and his anger. As a matter of fact, let's go over here to Isaiah. It says right here in the book of Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 13. It says, Yahweh shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. So Yahweh, how does, okay, so when World War III it pops off, right, and Lord willing, it's Vladimir Putin, right? People are going to say, Vladimir Putin, it's Vladimir. When he's going through the dance, the Donbass, right? When he's going to these different strategic areas, what did the enemy say, or his enemies say? They're going to say, oh, it's Vladimir Putin. Well, Vladimir Putin is nowhere on the battlefield. Vladimir Putin is somewhere in a hideout giving orders. But what you're going to see is you're going to see his troops. You're going to see his army. You're going to see his tanks. Like in World War II, you know, you can watch some movies when the Germans would come through a certain city, people would say, it's Hitler, it's Hitler, it's Adolf. Adolf is here. Hitler is here. Where meanwhile, Hitler is somewhere thousands of miles off, you know, but it's his army. And when you see his army, you're dealing with Hitler. It's the same thing with Yahweh. When you see Yahweh Shai go forth, you see that's Yahweh right there. That's his army. That's his hand. All right. It says, Yahweh shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. He shall cry, yea, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. It says, I have long time holden my peace. So the same way how the Father spoke through his angel to Moses, the same way how he spoke to the Israelites when Yahweh Shai was on the scene, who you call Jesus was on the scene. Because every word that Yahweh Shai was speaking, that really wasn't him. That was actually the Father speaking to us. All right? It's going to be the same way in the end. When you see Yahweh Shai roar, when the Father roars, you're going to see him roar through his Son. You're going to understand that how Yahweh Shai feels is the same exact way how the Father in heaven feels. He says, I have long time holden my peace. I have been still and refrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. I will make waste mountains and hills and dry up all their herbs. And I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up their pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. Who's that talking about? That's talking about us, the children of Israel. Let me bring that out. Let's go to the book of, same book, Isaiah chapter 6 and verse 9. And he said, go and tell this people. What people? The Israelites. Hear ye indeed, but understand not. And see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed. So when we go back to Isaiah 42 and verse 16, it says, and I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. He says, I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. How? Because Yahweh Shai. That's how. Yahweh Shai was that light. The same light that we've been talking about this whole entire time. He says, these things will I do unto them and not forsake them. But the point is that Yahweh Shai is coming like a woman in travail, like a roaring lion, okay, to express. He is the expressed image of the Father. He is the expressed image. So every expression you see, that's the expression that the Father has on his face as well. So when we go back to Zephaniah 3 and 8, therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Okay. Let's go back to Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 3. Then shall Yahweh go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. So let's get an image of that. Let's go over here to the book of Matthew, chapter 24, in verse 27. It says, "For as lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." And when you see lightning strikes quick. Lightning doesn't hesitate. And oftentimes when before there's lightning, there's thunder. It says right here, verse 29, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. The powers of the heavens shall be shaken." Let's go to Isaiah 13 and 10. We'll come right back. Because the thing is all the prophets, they're seeing the same vision. They're just giving, some are they're like the Gospels. When you read the book of Mark, you get some things that are missing in the book of Matthew. Some things that are written in the book of Matthew, you're not going to get in the book of Luke and John. So when we go over here to Isaiah chapter 13, concerning the return of the Messiah to exact the vengeance of Yahweh on the earth, this is what's going to be happening. The book of Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 10. It says, "For the stars of heaven," well, actually, no, let's just read down. 13 and 1. "The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see." So who's this Babylon? This Babylon is America, all right? You can go through the precepts. I've done breakdowns on this in the past. But the first place that you can go to understand who this Babylon is talking about, you go to Psalms 137, 7 through 8. And that's talking about Esau, Edom, all right? "Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountains. Exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand that they may go into the gate of the nobles." And that's what we're doing, you know? We're standing out here on the highways and byways, pushing out this word, pushing out this truth. And you never know. People in high places might catch these videos, you know? People in high places are, because they have to monitor us. All right, they got to watch us. It says, "I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness." And who's the strongest of all of us? Yahweh Shai. It says, verse 4, "The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of the nations gathered together." So there you go. Yahweh's gathering all the nations down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, right? He says, "They come from a far country." The Yahweh of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even Yahweh, and the weapons of his indignation, to destroy the whole land. What? Babylon, America, right? So that's what's going to be taking place right before Yahweh Shai comes. America must be destroyed and nuked before the return of the Son of God. It says, verse 6, "Howl ye, for the day of Yahweh is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames." Right? Why are their faces going to be as flames? Because a lot of these people are going to get nuked to kingdom come. It says in Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 12, let's get that. It says, "And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh shall smite all the people that fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth." Now that's multifold. That's talking about those people that come against Jerusalem over here in America when they eat a nuclear missile. But not only that, that's going into Second Esdras. Let's read that. Second Esdras chapter 13. One of my favorite passages. It says right here in the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, and verse 1. And it came to pass, after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man, so what man? That's talking about Yahweh Shai, right? That man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. So when he comes like as lightning, when you see him come from one as a thief in the night, when you see the moon and the sun, the moon turn to blood and the sun not give its light, that's what this is talking about, the day of the Lord. It says, and whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. That's why their faces shall be as flames, according to Isaiah, right? It says, verse 5, and after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. So he's coming in a massive spaceship, a massive UFO, and he's going to be standing upon it, right? Verse 7, but I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid. And yet there's fight. So all those Russians down there, they're going to be afraid. They're going to still fight. The Chinese, all the nations, because this is the day. This is the day of war, the day of his indignation, of his fierce jealousy. Yahweh said, "I'm going to gather them all down." And it says, "But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth." Oh, I'm sorry, verse 9. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. You see? So he's gonna be shooting. He's gonna be shooting laser beams out of his mouth. All right. Verse 11. And they were all mixed together: the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. You see? So now let's go back to Isaiah 13 and verse 6. How ye, for the day of Yahweh is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Verse 9. Behold, the day of Yahweh cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. So that's how we understand that when it talks about Babylon in verse 1, it's not talking about ancient Babylon, because all of this is concerning one prophecy. Okay, this Babylon is talking about a future Babylon, all right, which is America. He says, verse 11, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. Let me go back to Matthew 24. Matthew 24 and verse 29. And immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. That's talking about the satellites going to be falling out. That's talking about nuclear missiles are going to be flying. Nuclear missiles are sometimes referred to as a star, right? Stars. Okay. It says, verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Now, what are these clouds? Right? Because people don't believe in UFOs, right? They don't believe, well, now they do, but they don't believe that the UFOs are the angels. The UFOs are the wheels of God. Let's get a precept to prove that what the clouds are. Excuse me. Let's go to Psalms 104 and 3. It says, who layeth his beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot. Right? And what is a chariot? What is the purpose of a chariot? Is to ride in. It's a vehicle that you use to get from one place to another. That's why when you see these UFOs, they look like clouds. They look like stars. They look like clouds. And then what they do is they slowly morph into a full vehicle. That's why, what is that? The Pentagon, they're having talks about it. Even one of the jets, the Navy pilots, they said that they saw a Tic Tac, a flying Tic Tac, right? And it was metallic because it formed and morphed into its solid form. The same way how angels can take on the appearance of men, or they can appear as a vapor or as a flame, or they can also appear as their true self. You know, some of them have eyeballs all throughout their bodies and whatnot, right? It's the same thing with the chariots. It says, who maketh the clouds and his chariot, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers a flaming fire. Let's get another precept on that. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, and it came to pass as they still went on, this is talking about Elisha and Elijah, right? It says, and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire. So these clouds are referred to as chariots, but also the cloud can turn into light, into fire, right? And he's describing it the best way that he can. All right. A chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. So that means that from the bottom of the UFO, there was a tractor beam, and Elijah got beamed up into the UFO. All right. And Elijah went up by the whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. Now, why was it the horsemen? Who are the horsemen? The horseman is the man who controls the horses, right? So that's all he saw. And when it mentions the horses of fire, the reason why it's referred to as horses is because in order for a chariot to move in those days, you needed something to pull it. But when he's looking at these clouds are moving. They're floating, and they're going from place to place. So it's as if he's trying to figure out what is causing this chariot to move. Right? He said, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his clothes and rent them into two pieces. So yes, UFOs are in the scriptures. That's what the Son of Man is coming back on a big UFO. All right. So when we go back to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. You see, so just like as lightning shoots forth, before there is lightning, there's thunder, right? And that thunder represents the trumpet of the Lord. In my analogy. And he says, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end heaven to the other. Jeremiah 29 and 14. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29 and verse 14. It says, and I will be found of you, saith Yahweh, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith Yahweh, and I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive. You see? So those that his elect, which the four angels which the angels are going to come and beam up, are those that are in their respective captivities, wherever they have been scattered. Yahweh Shai was under captivity, and we have to understand that captivity is not just in the land of your enemies, but your captivity is also, it could be in your own land, right? They oppress a man in his own heritage. Let me get that. Because Yahweh Shai, he was under captivity. He was under the Romans, believe it or not. That was a captivity, even though he was living in his own land. Ooh, I think that might be Habakkuk. If I could get the page, dang it. Yeah, come on. Damn, where is that? Was it Micah? Here, let me, I got to find that precept. It says right here in the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. The Roman Empire, right? These Edomites. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. See? So right there you have it. Yahweh Shai was oppressed. So the angels, they're going to go to even our people that might be in the Holy Land, because Yahweh's got to get his people out of that area, because that's going to be gridlock. That's going to be a war zone, right? So he's even going to save some of the Israelites that live in Israel as we speak. So let me finish that off in Matthew 24, and we'll go back to Zechariah. It says verse 24 and verse 31. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather. Matthew 24 and verse 31. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Right? Back to Zechariah chapter 13 or 14. Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 3. Then shall Yahweh go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, from which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it towards the south. So when Yahushua comes, he's going to jump off the UFO. He's going to land on the Mount of Olives, and there all the nations, they're going to be at war. You're going to have the Iranians, they're going to be at war. You're going to have the so-called Israelis at war. You're going to have the Russians. You're going to have the Turks down there. You have the Syrians down there. You're going to have all the forces that are remaining of America. They're going to be down there. You're going to have Germany, all of them. They're all going to be down there, right? And when he lands on the Mount of Olives, this is what it says, that the mountain's going to split into two, right? So Yahushua, he's coming from the east. Yahushua is not coming from the west. He's coming from the east as lightning. And let's go to Habakkuk chapter 3. Habakkuk chapter 3 and verse 1. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet upon Shigalanon. O Yahweh, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. O Yahweh, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known in wrath, remember mercy. God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran Salah. His glory covered the heavens. What? The UFOs, right? And the angels. It says, his glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. So that's talking about laser beams. Like when you watch Dragon Ball Z and they shoot key blasts out of their palms, that's in the Holy Scriptures. So not only is he going to be shooting laser beams out of his hands, according to Second Esdras, he's going to be shooting fire out of his hands, light beams out of his mouth. It says, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. So when he lands on the Mount of Olives and he splits the mountain in two, the earth is going to melt while he's walking. All right, you can imagine what a terrible sight. All right, these nations, they're going to be so afraid, they're going to be shooting at him. They're not going to be able to kill him. Right, the bullets are going to hit his chest, and it's just going to deflect. They're going to crumble like Superman. Verse 6, he stood and measured the earth. He beheld and drove asunder the nations, and the everlasting mountains were scattered. The perpetual hills did bow. His ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Kashan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. Was Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? That's why he said that I forget what passage we just read, but it says that when he comes, all the pools of water. Yeah, that was Isaiah. Let me go back to that. Because Habakkuk's saying, like, man, what did the rivers do to you? Isaiah 42. He said, verse 15, I will make waste mountains and hills, and dry up all their herbs, and I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up their pools. So you go back to Habakkuk 3 in verse 8, it says, was Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea? That thou didst ride upon thine horses and the chariots of salvation? And when you look at some of these videos, the UFOs, they go from the heavens and then they go right into the ocean. Okay? Now, you got to think about it. Esau, they're going to have submarines all scattered throughout the world. So Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, he's got to destroy all those aquatic weapons of war. He's got to go down there. There's going to be submarine. We can't forget about that. A lot of the nuclear missiles are going to be coming from these submarines. So you're going to have dogfights in the heavens, and then not only dogfights in the heavens, he's going to send a certain amount of the angels to go into the oceans, to go into the deep. And there's going to be warfare in the bottom of the oceans. And he's going to jack up all the nations round about. Okay? It says, was thy wrath against the sea that thou didst ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation? Verse 9, thy bow was made quite naked, according to the oaths of the tribe, even thy word, Salah. So how is it made naked? You have to pull what do you say? Thy bow was made quite naked, meaning apparent, right? This whole time, we haven't really seen the hand of the Lord, but it's going to be so apparent, he's going to reveal himself, all right? That's what it means. He said, thy bow was made quite naked according to the oaths of the tribes, even thy word, Salah. Thou didst cleave the earth with rivers. The mountains saw thee, and they trembled. The overflowing of the water passed by. The deep uttered his voice and lifted up his hands on high. The sun and moon stood still in their habitation. So not only when Yahushua comes, just like in the ancient days with Joshua, Joshua caused the sun to stop. When Yahushua comes, not only will the sun not give its light, not only will the moon be turned into blood, but they're not going to move. Time is going to stop, and there's going to be a great slaughter. It says, at the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. Verse 12, thou didst march through the land in indignation. Thou didst thrust the heathen in anger. Isaiah 63. Says Isaiah 63:1, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? So you're going to have a lot of white people over there, a lot of Edomites getting slaughtered. This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. That's Yahushua, man. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? He says, I have trodden the winepress alone. So Yahushua, he gonna be there by himself, man. There ain't gonna be no angels giving him backup. No, he's going on a solo mission in the region of Jehoshaphat, in the region called Armageddon. All the other angels, they're gonna be busy with the dogfights. They're gonna be busy with the space battles. They're gonna be busy going into the ocean. They're going to be too busy grabbing up the elect. So Yahushua, he's going down there to meet all the nations personally by himself. Can you imagine that? How glorious. One-man army. He said, I have trodden the winepress alone. Right? That's why Habakkuk, he says, thou didst thresh the heathen. Thou didst march through the land in indignation. He says, I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury. And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. Back to Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 13. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people. So he's saying, if God loves the whole world, God loves everybody, why is he saying that he's coming to trample and thresh the heathen? But then he says that salvation is for his people. There is no salvation for the heathen. According to Habakkuk, he says, for the salvation of thy people, even for salvation with thine anointed. Thou woundedest the head of the house of the wicked by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Thou didst strike through with his stage the head of his villages. They came out as a whirlwind to scatter me. Their rejoicing was as to devour the poor secretly. Thou didst walk through the sea with thine horses, through the heap of great waters. Now, what that's talking about is, like we read in Genesis, it says that he divided the waters from the waters. That's why Ezra, he says, I saw the great man come out of the sea. Sometimes the heaven, space, outer space, it's water. It's considered a sea, okay? Verse 16, when I heard, my belly trembled, my lips quivered at the voice. Rottenness entered into my bones, and I trembled in myself that I might rest in the day of trouble. When he cometh up unto the people, he will invade them with his troops. So now let's go back to Zechariah chapter 14. So how you doing, man? Zechariah 14 and 4. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and towards the west. And there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it towards the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yea, ye shall flee like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And Yahweh my God shall come, and all the saints with me. Hey, what's up, bro? Hey, you believe in the Holy Scriptures? You believe in the Holy Scriptures? Sometimes where you from? Are you Eurasian? Oh, yeah, yeah. Everybody thinks I'm Eurasian. You busy? You in a hurry? I gotta get home, man. I just had a son. Hey, well, let me give you something that you can give your son real quick. Come on, let me give you some words. Don't be quick, bro. So, what I was just going through with the audience was that right now we're living in the last days, and the Son of God, bro, he's about to return. Now, who is the Son of God? All right, the Son of God, he's a so-called Negro. He's a black man. He's a Jew. He's an Israelite, according to the scriptures.
What's his name?
His name is Yahweh Shai, Jesus.
That's what, yeah, I heard about that. I mean, I believe it. I don't, obviously, I don't believe Jesus. How they fit through, well, yeah, you know what I'm saying? That ain't it.
No, bro. He's actually a black man with white woolly hair.
I see the with the beard.
Yeah, with the beard.
Like I said, I believe that. I believe that. I know it ain't.
It's in the scriptures. Let me read it to you real quick so that we can confirm your belief. The scripture said, whatever I say, bro, I better prove it. You know what I'm saying? Because this is your heritage, this is your culture.
Yeah.
If you ever want to learn about, okay, you have a baby boy, right? And I'm sorry, I gotta say this, man. I'm sorry that you have a son right now. Even though I'm happy for you.
No, I understand.
These days,
it's fucked up.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, so that's why I want to give you some knowledge so that you can give to him. I don't know how much time we have left on this planet because they're about to come with something called the mark of the beast.
I already know the shit that's in the chip.
Yeah,
like
the microchip.
See, bro,
Yeah.
Bro, I know. See, okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand what's going on. You know.
Cool.
So I understand.
So let me show you your Messiah real quick. Okay. So if you ever want to learn your history going past the slave trade, which is actually documented in the Bible, prophecy, you have to read the Bible. The Bible is the history book of the so-called Negro, the Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay? Let me read you what Jesus Christ looked like. So if you ever want to show your people, you want to show your wife, you want to show your family, look, man, Jesus is black, you go right here to the book of Revelation chapter 1. So we'll start right here. The revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So St. John, he got the revelation, right? The revealing. So now we come down to verse 12. And I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man. That's Jesus, right? Yahushua. Clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. So like a heavyweight belt, right? Now this is the point. His head and his hairs were what, bro? White. Like, not like horse hair, like white people, but like our hair, as white as snow. And his eyes were as a flame of fire. And his feet, which is going to be the same color as the rest of your body, like unto fine brass, like your color. As if they what, though? As if they burn in a furnace. So you throw that in the furnace, you take it out, it's going to be black as hell. You feel me? And it says, and his voice was as the sound of many waters. Every time when you watch movies of Jesus, he always sounds like a faggot. He sounds like a homosexual, all soft and sweet. Nah, man. Our king, bro, you have to imagine. He would destroy LeBron James. He would destroy Kimbo Slice. Nobody could go toe to toe with the Messiah.
Well, that's the thing. Those guys, they think they're gods. Like just what you're talking about.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is what the scriptures say. This is why you're so special.
Thou shalt not idle no one.
We can read that. Watch. It says to read the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
You go to Exodus chapter 20, right? It says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," right? But check out what the Father says in the book of Psalms chapter 82. It says right here, "I have said, you are what? Gods. And all of you are children of the Most High." So actually the people of this book, which are Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, we're actually gods. But we're not supposed to have any other God before who? Right. So that's why I say, oh, what's up, God? You feel me? You are a God, according to the scriptures. Ye are gods. All of you are children of the Most High. But, catch 22, ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. So that's one thing that you need to understand. Let me show you this so that you know deep down inside. Acts 13 and 1. And they'll never read you this in church, man. 13 and 1. It says, "Now there was in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called what? Niggers. And Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul, whose name was later turned into Paul the Apostle, who wrote the New Testament." As a matter of fact, let me show you what Saul or Paul looked like. So these prophets and teachers were niggers, right? Who are niggers today? That's us. Because we're the Jews of the Bible. That's the secret. This is what Paul or Saul looked like according to the scriptures. It says right here, the book of Acts chapter 21, verse 37. "As Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, Why may I speak unto thee? Who said, Can thou speak Greek?" So that's like one of us, speaking their language. This is a brother. So this white captain, this centurion, these police, they're looking at you like, wait, you speak my language? This is what he says. Verse 38, "Art not thou that Egyptian?" And the Egyptians are what, bro? They're black, man. It says, "Which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers." But Paul said, "I am a man that am a Jew." So this white man got him confused with another black man as an Egyptian. Showing you what? The Jews, the Bible, are Negroes. They're black. They're us. It says, "Of Tarshish." He says, "I am a Jew of Tarshish, a city of Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city. And I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. So that's all. I can show you more and more. I can show you God in heaven. He's black, white, woolly hair. But we get the point, right? So now that we understand that we're Israelites, your history. Let me show you your history. So how come all these bad things are happening to us, bro? If we're so special, if we're God's chosen people, we're God's. How come we're at the bottom?
Things ain't happening to me though.
You don't think so?
Not to me. Like I said, I'm happy. Like I said, I'm from a basketball academy.
Yeah.
My shit's successful. Like I plan on passing my shit down to my son. Like I created something. I'm not no worker. I'm on my own shit. I'm on my own time.
And you gotta pay taxes
on my shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to.
And who did you have to? And if you wanted, because you had to form, you had to get something by the government in order to do what
I
you're
got
doing,
my
right?
tax ID. Yeah, I got all that. I took care of the business shit first. You have to take care of that.
Why
shit
do you have to go to them to do it?
I can't control that, but that's why. In order, if you have to play their game, like I said, I had to get the tax ID and all that shit. Fucking, I'm gonna do it. But like I said, I know I still wiggle my way through other shit.
Pay bills.
Yeah, I pay bills.
You got a mortgage, you pay rent, all that.